The Bad Boys podcast is brought to you by Iconic Motor House, the guys making your motoring fantasies a reality. Visit iconicmotorhouse.com.
Today on the show, we talk with the legend, the one and only disco icon, Leo Sayer.
We talk about his love of the Muppets,
His battle as a Richard Simmons doppelganger.
and his reimagining of some great Beatles hits.
All that and more on the Bad Boys podcast. If you want the hard-hitting journalism of Four Corners, the reliable current affairs of, well, a current affair, and the planning that goes into classy shows like The Project, then you've tuned into the wrong podcast. It's comedy, entertainment, celebrity interviews, and news stories that makes Fox News sound like an episode of The Muppets. Or maybe it's the other way around. Conversations no one wants to have, but everyone wants to hear. This is the Bad Boys Podcast. Welcome to the Bad Boys Podcast. And this is an epic episode. I can't believe that we're actually here and that we've actually done this. But, oh my God.
I know. It's like a massive what the fuck. I mean, really. You know, it's a funny thing. You know, I like everybody else, we all grew up with the man, the disco king, and I expected him to be a bit of a diva. I expected him to be, I don't know.
I know what you mean, yeah.
Honestly, you know what I mean? Like, this guy is as big as it gets.
Yeah. Like,
really, I mean, he is an absolute icon. And I kind of, I don't know, I mean, you got to listen to it, but I felt we were friends by the time we finished.
I actually thought he was going to invite us over for dinner at the end.
Right. You know what? He's absolutely on my Christmas card list. There's no question about that.
Absolutely.
All three of them now.
Ex-hosts excluded, right?
I can't believe you went there.
I shouldn't have said that.
Well, that's a different list. That's the shit list.
All right, okay.
That's where I lay a big turd in a box and send it every Christmas with a big
light it. So look, you know, we had this epic interview with Leo Sayer, and it was right after another epic interview, which you'll hear on Tuesday, which is an interview with Rick Nielsen from Cheap Trick. I mean, like, it was like one incredible interview after the other, and I've got to say, I loved Rick's interview as well. I can't wait for that to air.
You know what? It's funny. I would say I'd love to have Leo over with families and friends and a big barbecue and all that sort of stuff. I tell you what, I'd love to get drunk and possibly a little stoned with Rick. I reckon that'd be an absolute good party. That would be.
So what you're saying is that Leo you have a wine with, and Rick you have a joint with, right?
Oh, yeah. Look, yeah. Well, certainly a scotch. And look, it's more to the point, you know, two very different men, both icons in their own way, in very different sectors of the music industry. I mean, rarely does it get bigger than those two, like in all seriousness with you. And look, honestly, talking to both of them, the energy was very, very similar.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it was.
I mean, look, these guys are absolute legends.
Yeah.
And it was absolute pleasure to talk to them. But I got to say, I haven't had as much fun as I had in talking to Leo.
Now, the interesting part about that was that it nearly didn't happen. Right, because
that's right.
Like we had no internet here because the internet got cut off in Tasmania, right? And so I'm literally sitting there going, I hope this can actually happen. I hope I can actually, you know, get enough bandwidth happening so that we can talk. And it did happen. And I think I dropped out a couple of times, and you'll hear that in the interview. But my God, I mean, what an amazing opportunity that was handed to us.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you know, the funny thing is, it wasn't until afterwards. Do you know how right after the interview you cut out? Now, people won't hear that because it was off air. You literally lost all your internet, and Leo and I were just standing there with our dicks in our hands, just chatting away, having a great old time. But the interesting thing is that outage wasn't actually one outage. It was, in fact, two. The line was cut. There are 3 lines that run between Australian mainland and Tasmania.
Yeah.
A lot of people actually don't realise it is what tethers Tasmania to Australia. You cut those lines and Tasmania just floats
off to Antarctica. Yeah, exactly.
But of those 3 lines, 2 of them were cut at one end and 1 of them was cut at the other end.
Jesus.
In 2 completely separate incidences that just happened to happen about an hour apart from each other.
That's a couple of Telstra consultants that won't be working for Telstra anymore.
Oh, yes, of course. But if you look at Telstra's notices and stuff, they're very, very careful to completely deny any and all responsibility, blaming it on third-party contractors. Now, what a lot of people don't realise, those third parties were contracted by Telstra.
Every contractor is a third-party contractor to Telstra. So
Right. So Telstra is just that arse hat that just keeps on giving.
Absolutely. Hey, now make sure you stick around for the after the interview at the end of the show. I have some breaking news that Rolling Stone has just announced, and I'm going to share that with you. This is a pretty interesting situation, and it revolves around the whole Marilyn Manson lawsuit. So I'm going to have a bit of a chat about that. You don't know what I'm going to tell you, and believe me,
I don't know. I haven't read anything yet.
This is a Netflix show in itself. Gotta say.
All right.
Stick around. Coming up right after this, the one, the only Leo Sayer, right here on Bad Boys Podcast.
You ever been cruising down the main street with your mates only to be laughed at by the gorgeous girls passing you by? Well, maybe you need to get your own ride and leave your mum's Camry at home. Turning your cruising dreams into a reality has never been easier than it is now with Iconic Motorhouse. Regular draws, limited numbers, and access to special and unique deals from over 4,500 popular brands. They don't do Camrys, they only give away real men's cars, eye-catching cars that'll get them purring like a pussycat. So don't be a turkey, go to iconicmotorhouse.com, choose how many tickets you want, and for a limited time, they'll increase your odds. It's never been easier to win a customised showpiece that will get their attention. iconicmotorhouse.com, giving you the opportunity to fulfill your motoring fantasy.
This is the Bad Boys Podcast. Leo Sayer is in the house, but first of all, let's take a listen to one of the songs that made this guy an absolute legend, one of many. This is Thunder in My Heart. Coming right up, Leo Sayer.
Standing here alone with you, wondering what it is that I'm supposed to do. And there you are with the love light in your eyes. The bridges are burned down, your arms are open wide. Am I in too deep or should I swim to the shore? Is this the real thing? I don't know, 'cause I've never been here before.
His songs have been used to launch so many careers, including his own, Three Dog Night, Roger Daltrey, and one of the biggest tracks of Cliff Richard's career, Dreamin', a pop icon, a disco superstar, a Muppet Show guest star, and a one-time hall porter who rescued some elderly folks from a blazing hotel fire. I think he was actually rescued himself, with a string of hits including You Make Me Feel Like Dancing, Thunder in My Heart, and now a new album where he reimagines the Beatles. We're of course talking about the one and only Leo Sayer. Leo, welcome to the Bad Boys.
Hello, Bad Boys. Nice to be here. Fantastic.
I got to say, it's so good to have you here, and I'm just going to retire now. I'm just going to put my feet up and go, look, I've met Leo Sayer. I can now retire and die a happy man.
Oh, that's very sweet. Thank you very much. But
no, I'm a little disappointed because you're wearing like just this maroon jumper. I was expecting you to be wearing like this multicolored jumpsuit that we all
go
remember.
And get it. I mean, I can go and get it. Yeah. Well, look, the jumpsuit is a bit of a, that's a bit of a bugbear because I get mixed up with Richard Simmons.
We were going to ask about that.
And they still do that. I mean, if I go to LA now and I was going to go to Kmart or somewhere like that, I'll be chased around by these little ladies going, Richard Simmons, Richard Simmons.
Fabulous.
I used to watch your video.
It does happen. And the funny thing is that once we did a photo shoot together, me and Richard Simmons, in the middle of 1976, I think it was, in the middle of the 70s, and he was the most miserable bugger to work with, really? I can tell you, because he was saying, why am I here with Leo Sayer? I mean, who is he? He's not important. So he was doing this all the time, and it was just a pain in this. I just said, Richard, for fuck's sake, behave. And it was just, it was embarrassing. People magazines, the front cover. Yeah. And afterwards, they were saying, well, you've just been photographed with Leo Sayer. That's pretty big. He said, who's he? He was a very difficult piece of work. I don't think he was happy in his own skin. I think that's basically what I brought home. To be like him with him is a bit of a drag.
Fair enough. I mean, obviously, you are a pop icon well before pop was even the modern thing that it is today.
Yeah,
and I mean that with all the respect as well. I wouldn't equate you to modern pop. Like I wouldn't. I mean, you just had this thing going on.
You had your own style, really.
Right. Captivated people.
I always tried to be original. And like when we first started off, I'm looking around at a picture now. I'm going to try and drag it off. No, I can't drag it off. But I used to appear as the Piero. That was my first image, and white face and white suit and a black skull cap, bathing cap, actually to do it. And white face, white makeup, red spots here, little tear eyes, black things.
Right, I remember that.
So I came out as the Piero, and that was the first real hit, The Show Must Go On, went with that. It was part of the cover of, the image was part of the cover of the album, Silverbird, the first album in 1973. And somebody said, you should appear on stage like that. So we got the girl who did the makeup for the record cover. And the next thing I knew, we were supporting Roxy Music and doing this big, big tour. And all of a sudden, as soon as I started appearing like that, the audience went mad. They wouldn't let Roxy on stage, and my record suddenly went straight up the charts, and theirs was coming down. So they threw me off the tour. And I thought, well, hang on, notoriety is good, isn't it? And that's where it kind of started. Went to America, still appearing as a Piero, and because there was only the front cover of the record out, the album Silverbird, and there were few other publicity photographs, nobody knew what I looked like. So I could go and do the shows dressed as a Piero. I would bounce into the room after the band had started. And every went, oh God, look, what is that? And then and I would usually change at the hotel and walk down the street in full makeup, and full mask, and then come off stage afterwards, quickly get into the limousine, go around the block, rub the makeup off, get in some jeans and everything, and stand outside the front door as they're all coming out, and going, who was that guy? And I'm going, yeah, he's fantastic. What did you think? So I didn't have to listen to these bloody promoters or record company guys. I could get it firsthand. It was fantastic. I had this double life, it was incredible. Awesome. But of course we couldn't keep it going for long because, I'd have got straitjacketed into it, like Gilbert O'Sullivan basically stayed too long, didn't he, with the little cloth cap and the the little boy image, and I thought, well, it's time to move on. So
I think that's why David Bowie kept changing his whole image all the time. He just gets sick of it and go, that's it. Ziggy Stardust is dead.
But that's how pop icons are formed. It's all image, and like David with Ziggy, I suppose me with the Piero, Mark Bolan with his kind of like Gary Glitter. You think of, we don't mention him much, but those kind of people, they got known by their costume, by their look.
Yes.
Even Peter Gabriel, with Genesis, and to a certain extent, I suppose the early Rolling Stones, with Mick with his crazy American jumpsuits and things, So we see an image and it stays with us, and we associate that with the record. It's iconic, isn't it? And that's what we see. And those days in pop, of course, we didn't have MTV, we didn't have video. We'd have to describe ourselves by our image.
Yeah, and where did the whole idea of the falsetto voice come from as well? Because
I always sang high.
That was part of your thing.
Yeah, but it wasn't a concept. I said I was always singing like that. I always had a high voice, and when I was a young lad, I was a choir boy, and you would instantly kind of you do, for the wings of a dove, it's always been part of my voice.
I think Andrew was a choir boy as well, actually.
Yeah, let's not get into that, whatever we do. But I mean, a lot of really big names have sung at that higher pitch.
Like the Bee Gees, for example.
Even
the Bee Gees, of course. And you've got Daryl Hall, who's got a fantastic falsetto. And there were lots of us. I mean, Michael Jackson always had that in his voice as well. But good singers can sing falsetto. It's just a little bit of a tonal shift in the throat, and basically you're there.
Yeah.
Lucky I had a strong voice, and I've always been able to go, and I've still got the falsetto. So it's still there.
Awesome. And look, something else that's still there, and talking about icons, talking about image and all that sort of stuff. The hair. I mean, wow. I've got to say, that is not only impressive, but it's obviously natural as well.
Yeah, it's not too thin as well. It's thinning a little
great.
bit.
I mean,
no, we've got hair envy actually happening right now. So,
Absolutely.
I'm 74 in May, and I can't believe I've still got it. But
have you ever thought of shaving it? Have you ever thought of getting rid of it?
Well, I did at one time have it in a ponytail. I had it relaxed, and I had a ponytail, and that was somewhere in the kind of 83 or 84 or something like that. And it was fun. But after sweating through a concert, it would all bounce back anyway, because it's pretty wiry stuff.
Because I'm thinking, I reckon, Shane, you hear about people shaving their head for cancer and all that stuff and raising money and stuff. How many tens of millions of dollars could we get?
Oh, no, I know. I'd get millions, mate.
That's right.
But no, I'm going to keep us. My dad died with a full head of hair around about this age, about 73, actually, he was. Right. I've outlasted him already by a year.
Yeah.
And he was just had his 73rd birthday when he died, sadly. But he had a full forehead, I mean, he never receded. So I guess it's in the genes, isn't it?
I've never had a full set of hair, full head of hair. It's always been thin, and it's like, that's it. I did have a flat top once when in the 80s.
Tell the viewers, I mean, we look at this, they probably see it as well. You can choose to see it as 3 screens, and there's 2 very impaired guys here and me, and it's really sad.
Well, I've got a full head of hair, and it's also in my genes as well, but we're not talking the same thing there.
Yeah.
I've just taken a screenshot for us as well, so if you want to check it out, head over to the Bad Boys Facebook page.
The real sadness, the reality.
The sadness. So, you're very famously located in Australia now. Why Australia? Yeah. What was the reason to move down under?
I always had an affinity with this place. I mean, when I came here for that first tour in 1975, I'd just been in the States. We'd had a real gangbusters tour, like I was describing with the Piero and all of that stuff. Yeah. And it really hit hugely. I mean, you mentioned Three Dog Night. They were at #1 with my song The Show Must Go On at the time. Nice. But when I came out of America, I don't know, I always had this feeling that everything was kind of restricted. It's a bit like that National Lampoon movie where they go and see the Grand Canyon, and then vacation, and it goes like that.
Yeah.
Like that. And he's covered every single photo angle. And you know, when I came to Australia, the most amazing thing was that it was incredibly wide open in attitude. Yeah. You know, like the first question at the airport, you know, so what do you think of Australia then?
I
got off the plane, you know. It kind of said everything, really. And I just found it, you know, it was, and you get all that sort of knock the poms kind of thing, you know. I mean, I arrived with my manager, Adam Faith, and they had to have a go at him as well as me. So it was quite funny, the whole thing. But I kind of loved the freedom. It was like, you know, being in a naughty boys at school again. I loved Australia for that. It was kind of, you know, to hell with it. Let's all have a laugh. Let's have fun. And I love that attitude. It was very open. And I don't think I'd seen that in, you know, in America, the reception that we got was very structured in its way, you know, because they're all on their best behavior and wondering how to react to things. Anything new is kind of, they've got to try and find, they've got to make it old very quickly. You know, they've got to get used to it very quickly. But in Australia, the freshness didn't seem to bowl over it. Every tour that I did, and I must have done about 20 tours, even up to 1990, you know, of Australia. So I was here all the time. And every time I was loving it. Paul Dainty was the promoter, and then later Dennis Smith. And everywhere I went in Australia, it was like a new door was opening somewhere, you know. It was very exciting. On the first tour, we had Reg Ansett with Ansett Airlines as the promoter. And at the end of the tour, he said...
Wow, that was...
Yeah, and a smashing bloke, absolutely great bloke. And he said at the end of the tour, he said, Leo, we've done so well on the tour. I've got my own plane. Would you like to pick 6 or 7 places that you'd love to go to, and I'll fly you there? I went, yeah. So, you know, we went to Broome, we went to Ayers Rock, as it was then, Ulara, and we went to, Alice Springs, and we went to Cairns, and we went to, oh my God, all over, you know, all of these places in Australia. And at that moment, I actually made myself a promise that I was one day going to live here, because I just thought it was the most magical place. So much contrast, great attitude from people. I loved the sense of humor, the cynicism, everything, the sarcasm. It was really cool. Right up my street, you know.
Well, it's kind of like they sent all the fun people from Britain over to Australia, really, on the convict ships. So, you know. I
think so. I mean, look at the success of people like Billy Connolly.
Exactly,
you know, who was just a complete knockout comedian. Rowan Atkinson. John Cleese. We send you all our funniest. You know, and you embrace them, you know, and that's what I loved, and I'm a funny guy, so you know, it was very special. I felt very at home instantly, and I still do now. And honestly, I mean, I could live in England, I suppose, but I'd rather be here, and I love it here. And I'm a naturalized citizen now, as my partner Donatella is as well, in 2008. Nice. And that lovely bloke who gets maligned all the time, Kevin Rudd, did all that, and he was super about it as well. And of course, it was Bob Hawke before who wanted to make me a citizen, but I couldn't go in those times. I couldn't come because you had contracts all over the world, and Australia with online and airlines, and it wasn't as close to the world as it is now in the 70s. And now, of course, it's just Novak Djokovic can try and get in every day. I mean, it's so easy.
Exactly. And now Australia's big enough, we can piss China off as well. So everybody's happy.
I think so. Yeah. It's like it's becoming a power, isn't it?
Right. Well, except except it just needs a leader to run it. But anyway, that's another story altogether. Let's not go there.
Don't go there. Yeah. But at this moment, we're all Ukrainians, so it doesn't matter.
That's right. Now, there's been a lot of bands that have tried to imitate you as well. I still remember that when the Scissor Sisters first came out, it was like, wow, that sounds like Leo Sayer.
That was a real grab, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And the co-writer of that was Elton John, which really sort of pissed me off because, I mean, Elton knows me, I mean, he would have gone, that sounds like You Make Me Feel Like Dancing, but no. But I think that what happens often, and, I'm very aware of this with this new record I've got, this Northern Songs of doing the Beatles, and I've had quite a few people knocking me for it. Of course, diehard Beatles fans who think that the records are sacred and you must never do anything, to these songs. They mustn't be touched. But we all hear things. I mean, You Make Me Feel Like Dancing itself came out of a listening to a record by, what was that? Shame, Shirley and Company.
Oh, you're
and
right.
me and the drummer. There's an old single from ain't that a shame?
Yes.
Shame on you, 'cause you can dance too. And some really high-pitched kind of falsetto singer. And me and Jeff Porcaro, the drummer, famous drummer of Toto, of course, and Steely Dan and many others, we were doing a session that day in the studio, and we kept looking at each other, and because we both heard it on the radio on the way in, and we saying, "Isn't that record great?" So we started playing the groove and started jamming, and I was singing in the falsetto just like Shirley did on the record. And the next thing we know, it's
there.
It's there. It became a jam session. Richard Perry recorded it. We didn't even know he was recording it. About 2 days later, he played it to me. He said, "That's your hit. Just finish that. Get a chorus on that, and you got a hit." And that's it. So we all listen to things accidentally, and we all think of George Harrison with "My Sweet Lord," and the Chiffons. You can't help sometimes but echo these things.
Well, I mean, he ripped it off the Hare Krishnas, so I mean, exactly.
So we pick up things, and I think it happens in the world of film and TV and actors and playwrights and everything. We all unconsciously borrow something from something else that we've seen. In fact, all we can be influenced is by everything we've listened to. And that was really behind my decision this year of for my 50th anniversary of why don't I do the Beatles? I mean, I'd been working up some of these tracks before anyway, but why not celebrate what influences you and
love it,
and your own take on it as well? Because I tried to turn it into a Leo record, for all of the craziness that is, But
well, you did, but the Beatles is if you look at any band in the world that's ever been around, really, the Beatles songs, the Beatles catalog would have to be the widest catalog that's ever been reproduced by other artists ever. Yep. Okay, so
absolutely,
you're not doing something that is sacrilegious. You're doing something that,
and I think if you look at the Beatles, the width of their creativity was the greatest of all. Because I mean, if you figure that the Stones couldn't get a hit until the Beatles wrote the song, and although I love the Stones, the Beatles encompass so many different styles.
Yes.
And in such a short time as well, really.
Incredible, yeah. I mean, you look at Paul McCartney's solo career where it's gone into classical, poetry, the dynamism of these guys. I mean, had John stayed alive, I think, and George stayed alive, we'd have seen, really sort of much further creative, width of what they would have been able to do. They're all incredibly, as you see in the film Get Back, how creative they were and how
amazing,
ingenious they were,
Amazing. Now, you did a version of Eleanor Rigby, right?
There's 2 cuts of Eleanor Rigby actually on there, kind of Michael Jackson did.
We'll talk about that because that's a really interesting one. I mean, Eleanor Rigby, I mean, we're touching on something that's probably one of my favourite songs, and in actual fact, I think Zoot. I'm going to offend every Beatles fan. Zoot did a better version of it than the Beatles.
Yeah, and what was his name? The singer who's wonderful, who unfortunately not with us any longer.
Daryl Cotton.
Daryl Cotton. Yeah, what a beautiful singer that. What a great voice that guy had.
Yeah.
I was just fooling around in the studio. This is about 10 years ago when this came around, and I was trying to learn how to use the studio by myself. I'd already done some forays into that, but I didn't want to. What would happen if I didn't call the musician? So I was trying different things, and I don't know how it came to me. I suddenly thought of Quincy Jones and Michael Jackson, and I was, just going do 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 as you do, and they go Eleanor Rigby, and it fit. And I went, you just flatten off the notes a little bit on the vocal, and it fits with that role, that choice of notes and that groove, and. The next thing I knew, I was putting it down and thinking, the first thing I thought was, can I get away with this? And then when I played it to a few other friends and they said, hey, that's great. So it's cheeky, and I mean, of course, I'm sort of utilizing something that's already out there. Yeah. But I think that's where the fun is. And it started making me think, I mean, the version of Across the Universe was I was actually thinking of how Oasis would do that track, and they've always had that Beatles kind of spin on them, haven't they? I mean, they basically,
they think they are the Beatles.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
they are another Beatles, really. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
They took that idea and took it further. But I was thinking all the time, how would other artists do it? I mean, how would a kind of like maybe a slightly jazz setup do Norwegian Wood? So, a lot of those songs kind of came up through that, idea of interpretation, but not only me, but how I would imagine. I was trying to sort of put bands together or put artists together and imagine doing that. I was on the track "Girl," I was thinking really of Prince, totally. Would you be my girlfriend? And I was just going, oh, girl, and just thinking, yeah, that's how he'd do it. So, and the whole album is supposed to put a smile on your face. Really, it's supposed to be cheeky. It's like guess the song.
And that's the thing I love about your career. It's almost like you're not taking it all too seriously.
No.
You're trying to be fun. You're trying to enjoy it and enjoy the life that goes along with it as well.
Yeah, and keep reinventing. I mean, look, we have this wonderful platform as artists. I mean, while the pandemic was going on, I was producing some rather serious songs that I was putting on YouTube, of my
I think
city
we
in
actually
lockdown,
mentioned
Melbourne.
we mentioned you on one of the shows.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, and then I did a song, How Did We Get Here, which kind of goes right back into the blaming Wu-Tan and the Bats, sort of for everything, rather than kind of working out how humanity has got to the point where a major disease can take us over, only because we didn't listen on AIDS and we didn't listen to people like Fauci. We'd rather diss them than listen to them.
Right. Yeah.
So that's kind of, I felt that I had a job to do, as a spokesperson, with a recording studio. You've got to do something. You can't just sit on the fence, and that was behind that.
And the thing is as well, and thinking about enjoying the career, enjoying the work that you're doing. And before I ask the question that's in my mind is actually about career highlight. What would the career highlight be? The thing, it's funny, we were doing a bit of research before you came on so that we could get our questions a little bit more tightly honed.
It hasn't worked.
No, never does.
The one thing that jumped out at me, the thing that actually impressed me the most.
Of all the things, mind you, of everything that you've ever done, right?
Yeah, of everything.
And this is a reflection of me, probably.
Siri's coming out. Siri, what's the greatest thing I've ever done?
And the answer is, Andrew,
The Muppet Show. You were on The Muppet Show.
That's not nice.
I think it's amazing. Like, you're up there with George Burns and Elton John and Peter Sellers, John Cleese. Like,
some of the people I've met have been incredible. I mean, I'm doing my book at the minute, and I actually think I go through moments where I think, no, you're just telling tall stories, Leo. But it's true. I was the last person to speak to Elvis on the phone the night before he died. I walked onto a plane that I was tax exile and, living in Los Angeles. And I walked onto a plane at Heathrow. I had to get back to LA, and they said a guy has taken over all of first class. And I said, well, tell him who I am, in a bullish kind of way. Flash bastard. And it was Muhammad Ali. And we became friends,
wow.
We just sat the whole flight, he's saying, sing me that song again. And I'm going, go to hit me, and show me how, and it was
for the 30th time on the flight.
House on fire. Yeah, exactly. It's like snakes on the plane.
You want to stay up here? You're going to sing that song again.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And you're going to have to hit me to do it. No, he was fantastic. And a week later, I went to his training camp, and it's just me and him for 4 days, hung out together,
Wow.
Slept in the same room, all that sort of stuff. In the middle of the night, you're going, tell me about apartheid. And I get the whole story.
Yeah.
He was my hero when I was a kid at school. Can you imagine these opportunities that come to you? So I've had a wonderful, charmed life, and it's not over yet.
No.
And I couldn't actually. There are some highlights, but you see, half of the highlights come because of the wonderful let's use the word, the perk, the perks of that people want to hear you all over the world. I mean, my career's been truly international. So I get invited to Vietnam. Michael Jackson has failed to make the gig somehow. So the promoters say they've got Pepsi and Chivas Regal, his sponsors there. They're all set up in Vietnam. Let's get Leo Sayer. I go, what? So I'm doing Michael Jackson's gig. I'm the first artist into Vietnam since the war, and incredible. And to us, they all look alike. I mean, I don't mean to say that in a naughty way, but to them, we all look alike, but not me. Yeah. They're all spotting me because there's these massive posters all over Ho Chi Minh City, Saigon, and so people, look, there he is. These are the kind of highlights that you couldn't predict. The highlights of having number one records are like one side of it, but the highlights of being in the right place at the right time are just because of being popular and the opportunities, the perks that come with it, And so I think some of my greatest highlights have been moments where I almost shouldn't have been in this place, but I was, and something magical happened. And there's so many of them. You'll have to read the book. It's going to be just a boy.
Can't wait to read the book.
And how do you stay grounded? I mean, because like you come across as one of the friendliest artists that we've met that just seems to just not take life so seriously. How do you remain grounded? What's your secret?
Oh, I'm a huge egotist. I'm completely, utterly self-centered. Only interested in myself and my own opinions.
That's how you do it.
I am very motivated. I can't work out why at this age, having achieved, as you say, a lot of great things, not good enough for me. I've still got ambition. I still want to play headline at Glastonbury. I still want to, play the Carnegie Hall. Yeah. I still want to, headline the Byron Blues Fest. They don't even invite me, But I want to do all these things still, and I don't know why. I've got this driving worm inside me that just pushes me. I still want to make my Sgt. Pepper. I still want to have my own I still want to star in a film. Yeah. I still want to do those things. And I don't know what drives me, but it's that keeps me. And in a way that keeps you grounded, because if you're not humble, you'll never get there. Yeah. So you have to kind of put yourself in perspective.
Yes. Well,
and I think that I've been able to do that.
You never know. One of these days you might actually be able to be the actor in the movie of Richard Simmons' life.
Now that would be the one, wouldn't it?
Oh my God! Look at these people; it's so beautiful. You bring a tear to my eye.
I can do it. I can do gay.
We'll send this tape off for the audition. I mean, you've won it.
I'm in trouble now. Yeah.
So, look, when I was listening to...
I don't know if I can do the exercises, though. I'm not...
No, you don't want to do...
Oh, mate.
When I was listening to Eleanor Rigby, and knowing how you've got this funny side to you, all I could see was John Lennon and Michael Jackson up in heaven going, oh, for fuck's sake, what's Leo done now?
I know. Look, I got very close to George Harrison towards the last few years because we're both motor racing fanatics, and we'd meet out there. We were, between the two of us, I think we were trying to guide Damon Hill's career because we were great, fans of his dad, Graham Hill, the great Formula One driver of the years of Jackie Stewart and Sterling Moss. Yes. We were great. So when this Damon once turned up at my studio as a motorcycle courier, and I had a big poster of Graham Hill, and he's looking at it, and it was on the wall, and he said, "Oh, that's interesting." And I said, "Your eyes look just like his." He said, "Yeah, it's my dad." So it was that's how I first met him. And then George met him through just being, a Graham Hill fan, and there was some do going on. And we both, he was he became a great driver, won the world championship anyway. Yeah. But we kind of guided his career. We pushed him along, and we persuaded people to give him a gig, when he couldn't get one. Yeah. So I spent a lot of time with George at that time, and I found him to be the most fantastic, down-to-earth, rounded Beatle of them all, because I met them all. And there was something about him, I think, that struck me, with his kind of humility and the way that he looked on himself. He never took himself seriously at all.
Yeah.
He would run from the idea that the Beatles actually achieved anything. He wanted to achieve so much more as well. It was an interesting guy, and I think a lot of his personality rubbed off on me.
Yeah.
And again, we go back to them. I mean, they were so inspiring to everybody because, they had it in check. They had it in control, didn't they? Their egos wouldn't run over. But I think I talked to John just before he died, actually. I was supposed to go to see him at the Dakota building. I was working with Bobby Keys, the sax player, who also worked with the Stones, and was on Double Fantasy, of course. And they were making some new tracks, and Bobby was lined up, and he said, come up to the Dakota with me and come up and see John. And I couldn't make it because my wife she was ill and we had to go back to London. And he was, and I caught Bobby in the lobby of the hotel. No mobile phones in those days. So he's on the phone. He said, come over, and he puts John on. And John says, "Yeah, come up and see us." And it was just sad that we couldn't do it. But
it's funny.
They were all really super guys.
We just finished an interview with Rick Nielsen from Cheap Trick, and he was saying that, like the same thing. That
funny man as well.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, very funny man. But it's like that same thing of the Beatles, were such an influence in their life. And obviously, they their first album was it's a bit too much like the Beatles. And I think if we look at the Beatles' impact like on our lives, your new album really portrays that.
It's such an eclectic mix of tracks, and I'm just saying, well, it's there maybe to prove the width of the Beatles catalogue and to prove that you can put a beat into the Beatles as well. It can work, in that way. We've tried to put a groove into there, and if this turns people on to the possibilities of re-listening to those songs and those records and actually kind of taking them seriously, then that's a great thing. I'd be very proud of being part of that, because I think that they symbolize just like mini skirts do and bob cuts and everything. They symbolize a time when it was all an easier world, the 60s, the 70s, a time when, all you need is love. I mean, think of that statement that they made and that they brought to us, the summer of love. And those incredible songs, and that maybe we could all work together and be together. That's in fact, it's kind of. I just saw something very moving this morning. There was a march going on in Poland, I believe. Oh no, in Germany. That's right. And the for Ukraine, support of Ukraine. Yep. And what they were singing was "All You Need Is Love." Oh, nice. And I thought, well, man, that's the effect of the Beatles, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah, and it's the effect, it's the power of music. I mean, if you look at it from that perspective, Yeah.
It translates to everything. Yeah,
it does. It does. Well, look, your new album, obviously we want everyone to go out and have a listen to it. Maybe it's your stepping stone to your next album, which will be your Sgt. Pepper's. Who knows? Who knows? I've got a load of new songs that. The funny thing is, I'm not writing much anymore, but I'm picking out songs that never got released because I had many fallow years where I just couldn't get a deal, but I kept on making records. Yeah, and I've got them all stacked up. Oh, just over there. No, there are about 400 songs that haven't been released. So so it can go on and go on as long as I can keep healthy and keep going. There's a lot more to come. Yeah, well, we're going to finish the show with Eleanor Rigby. I mean, why not? Sure. It's a brilliant track, and it's got the spirit of both John and Michael Jackson. So covers both areas.
Absolutely, why not? Go for
it. Leo Sayer, thank you so much for being part of the Bad Boys podcast.
Pleasure, guys. It's been lovely being with you. Fantastic. And may your hair grow. That's all I can say.
Eleanor Rigby picks up the rice in the church where a wedding has been. Lives in a dream, waits at the window wearing the face that she keeps in a jar by the door. Who is it for? All the lonely people. Where do they all come from? All the lonely people. Where do they all belong? Father Mackenzie, writing the words of a sermon that no one will hear. No one comes near. Look at him working, darning his socks in the night when there's nobody there. What does he care? All the lonely people. Where do they all come from? All the lonely people. Where do they all belong? I look at all the lonely people. I look at all the lonely people. Lonely, 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 lonely. Eleanor Rigby died in the church and was buried along with her name. Nobody came. Father Mackenzie, wiping the dirt from his hands as he walks from the grave. No one was saved. All the lonely people. Where do they all come from? All the lonely people. Where do they all belong? I look at all the lonely people. 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 Lonely, 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 lonely.
If you like your nuts being gently cupped by an angel, then Man Up Down Under are the duds for you. Environmentally friendly with bamboo inserts that are soft, strong, and lifts your weight with ease. Longer in the legs so they stay put. They're cool in summer and warmer when it matters. Man Up Down Under, underwear your girl will want to see you in and that you won't want to take off. Go to manupdownunder.com.au and buy a week's supply for your package because your junk deserves the very best. This is the Bad Boys Podcast. Welcome back to Bad Boys, and such an epic interview.
I tell you what, if I was going to have any more children and stuff like that, he would be the godfather. There's no question.
You're going to be calling every single one of them Leo. Actually, one will be Leo, one will be Saya.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, now, one name that you probably won't call your kids is Marilyn or Manson.
Yeah.
Poor bloke. He has been through some pretty shitty times of late, right?
Yeah, look, I'm not too sure whether I'd honestly be going down the poor bloke route. Like, really. I mean, you know what they say about fuckwits. They kind of bring it on themselves. Now,
yeah.
Well, look, I don't know Marilyn Manson. I've never met the guy. I got no cross to bear with the guy, but there are a few ladies out there that have.
Yeah, but this is the problem though, Andrew. What you know is what you've been told or what you've seen on reports, right?
You're right. What we are told is one thing. not always in all circumstances necessarily the truth. I agree.
Right. So,
but look, having said that, look, I've got no reason to disbelieve these ladies that have come forward to complain about sexual misadventures, rape, whatever the allegations are. I can't remember them all off the top of my head.
Yeah, and two of the women, so Evan Rachel Wood, who is Dolores on Westworld.
Correct. Does a great job with that. Yep.
Yep. And her friend Ilma Gore, who I believe is an artist, a rock and roll artist. Both of those women are in the centre of a documentary that's about to air on HBO on March 15th. Not sure whether we'll get it straight away in Australia, but it is they're the centre of a documentary called Phoenix Rising. And it talks about the accusations against Marilyn Manson, whose real name is Brian Warner.
Okay. Phoenix Rising. So they're suggesting that he's rising from the ashes?
No, they're suggesting that they have been burnt and now they are rising against him.
The ladies, right.
Yes,
okay.
yes.
Okay. All right.
Now, big news, breaking news, today or yesterday, Gore and Wood have been countersued by Marilyn Manson on the eve of this documentary.
Right. So countersuing is a very typical, highly aggressively litigious move, often used in the United States, more so becoming more common in Australia as well, where someone sues you for something and you countersue to kind of rebalance the weight, and then the court has to figure out who's actually right and who's wrong, and who pays the fees and the damages and all the rest.
Exactly. So they sued him. They made him, they basically said he was a rapist, an abuser. And because of that, Marilyn Manson's music career, TV career, film career has just taken a big nosedive into a giant turd.
Right. Now, he's been hanging out with Kevin Spacey and a few of the others and stuff like that of Shitsville. Yep.
Now, this is where it gets really interesting, because the suit that he's filing against Wood and Gore claims that Wood and Gore impersonated an FBI agent to give the appearance that a federal investigation into these alleged crimes was ongoing. They allegedly sent letters from this agent to women who would later make public allegations against Warner to suggest that they were in danger. He also claims that they provided checklists and scripts to prospective accusers listing the specific alleged acts of abuse that they could claim against Marilyn Manson, and that they made false statements to these women, including the defamatory claim that Warner filmed the sexual assault of a minor. Now, it gets even more interesting, because the suit also claims that Gore attempted to obtain Warner's login information and hacked into his computer, phone and email, creating a fake email account to claim that Warner was sending people pornography, and that she swatted Warner, sending police to look at the artist under false pretenses.
Okay, I'm lost now. This, okay, sorry, he's saying that they were impersonating an FBI officer.
Yes, he is saying that they sent an FBI letter around to women who were coming out of the woodwork.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Now it gets even more interesting. Wait for it. I mean, like this is going to be a really interesting, turn of events if it is true. So Gore allegedly contacted the FBI on February the 3rd, claiming that she was concerned for Marilyn Manson's safety because she hadn't heard from him. The FBI dispatched the LAPD to his home. Multiple LAPD officers and squad cars responded to the emergency. When Warner didn't answer the door, more units arrived. An LAPD helicopter was deployed. And then lo and behold, Gore had tipped off the paparazzi to view the spectacle.
Okay, right. Okay.
Now, I mean,
to make it look like the cops are all arriving to kind of arrest him, one assumes.
Yep, exactly. Or to go through his property or whatever. So, I mean, it's interesting that this has come out now, but you've also got, I'm just going to raise this question, and, I'm just putting it out there. I'm not saying he's innocent. I'm not saying he's guilty, because it's all alleged, right? But if it is true then this makes a mockery of the Me Too movement.
Yeah, okay, right. Let's play devil's advocate on this. Yes, you're right. If this is correct and his lawsuit stands and theirs is thrown out, yes, you're right. It would absolutely make a mockery of the Me Too movement, as would happen with any woman falsely claiming rape and stuff against a false perpetrator. Now, look, having said that, look, we know it does happen, right? We know women in the past have made false accusations. I would like to say that, in my opinion, it is, less than 1% of 1%. I know enough about men to know that we're a bunch of fucking Neanderthals that can't keep our dick in our pants, and most of the time we see boobs and all we think is nom, 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 right? It's part of our Neanderthal DNA and stuff. It's just a fact. However, the courts have to play this out. I mean, he's obviously made a counterclaim.
They do, but I mean, okay, it's not going to be in the documentary. It's not going to affect whether the documentary goes to air. But we've just been watching the Pam and Tommy series that's on Disney Plus, right? I don't know how it got onto Disney Plus, but anyway.
Jumping yowzers. Disney Plus
Mickey Mouse is rolling in his
Pam
grave.
and Tommy sex tape. Jumping yowzers. There's an orifice or two you probably don't want to go near.
So, Tommy, anyway.
Three.
So what's actually happened was, and it's interesting to see this, is that everyone automatically went against Pamela because she had been in Playboy.
Yes.
And they was just automatically assumed, okay,
look, they went against her because she's a woman, and in all these situations and stuff, the woman gets trashed and the man gets put on a fucking pedestal.
Yeah, well, they assumed that they released the tape when in actual fact it was someone that had a grudge against them. So right. I guess my point is we can't always believe what is in the media. We have to discern it ourselves. And
sorry.
Yeah, absolutely. And next week we've got a guest on the show. Next Friday we've got a guest on the show who's going to prove that.
Yes.
Because he went and did a documentary.
We're speaking with Topher Field. Now, Topher Field is the documentarist that released the documentary called Battleground Melbourne, and I watched it as part of that early release. And it's fair to say, and I was well informed on the subject too, I was still blown away. And we'll save the details for the episode, but my father always said to me, Andrew, don't believe everything you read in the newspaper, and from a very young age. And it's a funny thing now because I now say to everyone, don't believe a thing. A lot of people don't realise that in Australia particularly, and also the US and a whole bunch of other countries around the world, we do not have a free press anymore. It just does not exist. Anybody who tells me that the ABC is still a free press, I'm sorry to tell you it's not. Do your research if you want to. I'm not going to sit here and tell you all the different instances because we'd be here forever.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So watch this space. Going to be an interesting battle with and I'm sure it'll all be reported on Rolling Stone. We're going to follow it up with Marilyn Manson, and not going to speak with Marilyn Manson, but we're going to follow up the story.
Fuck, we've got better things to do. But one thing I need to ask, just to clarify.
Yes.
Does his lawsuit also make allegations that the moon is hollow? That Nazis actually reside on the other side of the moon after escaping World War II and they're coming back to install the Fourth Reich?
No.
Okay.
It actually states that the Earth is hollow and that Hitler actually lives inside the hollow Earth, where the dinosaurs are as well. So, yeah. Nice.
And the creatures are bigger and stuff like that,
absolutely,
and it's more temperature control and all the rest of it. Yeah, it's all that.
Anything could happen. Hey, now also don't forget, last days, I think we've got 4 days left. If you're listening to this on Friday, if you're listening to this on Monday, it's the last day to get your entry in for the double passes to Under the Southern Stars. Can't wait. It's going to be an epic concert. Cheap Trick, Black Rebel Motorcycle Club,
Bush. Depending what state you're in, Killing Heidi as well, you name it, it's happening. Like, it's going to be massive.
Our good mates, Angry and the Rosie Tats, they're going to be there.
How could we forget our good mate, bloody Angry?
Going to be awesome. So head over to our website, which is badboysfm.com, where you can actually enter the competition.
And you get to choose where you go.
Yes.
Like, we're not going to fly you or anything like that, because, we're not fancy like that. But you win 2 tickets, you and a mate or your partner or your wife or your mother or, your mistress, whatever. But you get to choose which particular concert you want to go to. So if you want to drive all the way down to Adelaide for one of the epic setups that they're doing down there, fill your boots.
Do it.
We've got 5 double passes to give away. And I've got to tell you, we have not had a competition that has garnished this much interest before.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going absolutely nuts.
Charts. Just
absolutely nuts. Hey, and just as we finish, a big shout out to everyone in Queensland and northern New South Wales with what you're going through. Oh my God, I'm seeing the photos and can't even believe it. We're seeing 2-story rising tide. I mean, that's just crazy.
I know. Did you see the photo of the quad bike caught in the power line?
Yeah. Yeah.
And listen, I also want to a big shout out as well to the other part of the world, Ukraine.
Yeah.
I've got friends over there. They were my old team that I used a couple of years ago. Helena, my project manager, Sergey, my ads guy, Sam, the guy who was running James Cook Media. Look, our hearts are out to all of you. They're all over in Ukraine at the moment. Some are trying to get out of Ukraine, but they're fighting the good fight in one way or another. And Bad Boys, we are thinking of you all and everybody in Ukraine against the tyrant Putin. So, Godspeed to all of you.
Thanks, guys. Have an amazing weekend.
Take care.
Press plus or follow to hear more great episodes from the Bad Boys. Or check us out on our social media at Official Bad Boys Podcast on both Facebook and Instagram.